Everyone, and welcome to another video. I'm Simply G, and today I'm going to be showing off all of the manga and comics and light novels and whatever else that I got for this month of July. We are halfway through the year, more than halfway through the year. Quite a bit to get through, so rather than spend too long on this intro, I'll get straight into it, and I hope you guys enjoy. First up, we have some, as perhaps expected, clear files for free. I think this is for free Road to the World. So we have Rin Matsuoka on his On My Day Off series, and the beach art version. It's called Plain in It. Very nice, very lovely. Love that. We also got the first released art birthday for Haru for free The Final Stroke, which is the last film series, which is this. So rather than having like separate, I guess, flowers for everyone, which is pretty typical, I think all of them are having this. Is this wattle? I'm not good with flowers, but he's got a message in a bottle. He's just sitting on the beach. Thanks, everyone. And then a little cute chibi version. Once again, if you've been on the channel for any extended period of time, you know that I'm a big fan of this series. I always buy the clear file birthday merchandise and other various products relating to free. And additionally, for this month, I also got the 2 postcard sets for free. So we have Wonderful Days and then Hopeful Future, and they come with 7 cards each, I believe. These are from the last 2 calendars, which I may or may not have already had as well. So yeah, lots of pretty free art and merchandise for me once again. Pretty perhaps expected, but yeah, happy to have these. First up for manga, I got my what's it called? Glacier Bay books package. Finally reached me, so super happy to have gotten my copy of their new release, False Stars, Red Riding Hood's Wolf Apprentice by Sayaka Mogi. This is a short story collection related to the larger series that Sayaka Mogi has released, set with the same characters and world, which you can actually read in its entirety digitally thanks to Kodansha in English, so definitely give that a look. Really beautiful little book, great little foil on the cover, and I really enjoyed this one. It's about a hunter and this little beast girl, and I don't think they speak the same language. They don't necessarily understand each other, but he typically, is hunting beasts, perhaps beast kind, but I haven't read the full original series that this is based off of, but I have read this one. He's helping her find her mother or parents, or to find someone else to look after her, because he discovered her alone in the woods, and she's only little. So really sweet, really lovely, beautiful artwork in this one. Definitely give it a shot if you're interested in it, as I said. And you can actually read the original series from Kodansha digitally, and Glacier Bay is actually releasing more of this particular world in the series in print very soon, so that's really exciting as well. So this won't be the last that we see from the Red Riding Hood's Wolf Apprentice series. New release from Glacier Bay is Rabbit Game by Miyoshi. This is a psychological thriller, little bit surreal, very reminiscent of something like Paprika. Very, very good. This I have a review upcoming for, so hopefully you'll see that on the channel. But this is the story of 3 teenagers, 2 boys and a girl, who have known each other for a little while, but they have kind of a not that close, but kind of complicated relationship with each other. But our main character, he is one day given a game called the Rabbit Game to him from this girl. She discovers it in this convenience store, and she's like, "Oh, don't you remember this? This is so cool." Blah blah. And it ends up that he keeps getting pulled into the game, and meets her there and starts to realize things about himself and about their friendship, and it kind of spirals from there. Not everything is what it seems, and it's definitely one that I think you can enjoy on multiple levels. It's great to reread. Another really lovely release and beautiful artwork once again. Really, definitely one I would encourage people who are fans of supernatural, or, well, not supernatural, surreal imagery. Definitely give this one a shot, because it's wonderful. And as always, Glacier Bay just putting out some of the best stuff in manga, to be perfectly honest to you all. Yeah, really, really happy to have this, and look forward to my more in-depth review in the coming days. Hopefully not weeks, should be days. Items that I got from my Glacier Bay order was actually Papakomi 2, which is an anthology, the second anthology of Papakomi. I got the first anthology last month. It's really wonderful, really enjoyable. Love it a whole bunch. Really good mix of interesting indie little comics. These, both the first and the second, were released by TCAF, so definitely a great little addition there. I've been meaning to get these for a little while, and thankfully Glacier Bay had copies. And I also got Travel and Women, which is called Volume 5 of Papakomi. It's sort of a little half version. Some of the stories in this are in this one, so there's a little bit of crossover. But there's also, like, this particular story, there's some really lovely pieces, more specifically focused on, well, women and travel, as the name implies. And this is bilingual, so it has English and Japanese. This is a directly, I guess, imported Japanese release, and is very, very, very cool. Very happy to have it. Some great little additions to what was already in this one. Yeah, I loved both of these. As, you know, an indie comic fan, they're some really great artists that don't have the, well, people just don't know about in English, and it's really wonderful that there's real effort being put into by the small press publishing companies and sort of like various individuals into bringing some of these lesser known titles to English, and also on the Japanese side, and trying to branch out to the overseas market as well. It's really, really cool, and really happy to have these. You can actually get on Glacier Bay. I didn't. I bought directly from the artist because I had been following this comic for what feels like years. It's probably been 18 months. And was super excited. I pre-ordered it pretty much immediately when it went up for pre-orders, and finally got my copy. And that is A Beautiful Journey by Psycho Inc. This is a fan book for The Case Files of Julia Richard, which has had an anime adaptation. Seven Seas is bringing the manga to English. Hopefully at some point we may see the light novels. But this is, as it implies, a doujin self-published comic from Psycho Inc., who's wonderful. I own a lot of their previous, more specifically Yuri on Ice fan books. And this is just a kind of tankobon length story with a whole bunch of extras and special things, cards and bookmarks and all that. Oh my gosh, I can't. Which is really lovely. Following our main characters, Richard, who is obviously Blondie here, and Seiji, who is like the actual main character. So if you know nothing about the Case Files of Jeweler Richard, it's about this young, I think he's 20, 21, young guy in Japan. He has a very rigid, morally upstanding, like, belief in justice. He always wants to, like, fight for justice in the world, whatever. University student. One day he sees this guy kind of getting harassed or in trouble, and he steps in and helps him. Very obviously foreign, and is like, "Oh, I hope you're all right. Good day." And in exchange, and so he meets this guy, Richard, and they kind of, there's a bit of back and forth there, but ultimately he discovers that Richard he actually appraises precious stones, so he's a jeweler, right? He's very good at what he does, he's very highly acclaimed, and he's recently moved to Japan to kind of open his own office here. And he hires our protagonist to be like his assistant, right? And it's like, if you don't know anything about the series, the novels in particular, it is like a soft BL. It's there's definitely a relationship between these two characters, but it is the slowest slow burn of all time. And each is quite episodic, a little bit like Holmesian almost, where someone will bring a particular piece of jewelry or a particular stone, and there's a whole story surrounding that. And even for our main character, that's something that happens. This particular fan book is set a little bit further on in the novels, after which is after where the anime ends, and it's kind of showing these characters and their relationship progression over several years, and them being like assistant and business owner, and then partners, and it's very, 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 very good. I'm really a big fan of Psycho Inc., as I mentioned. I really enjoyed her Yuri on Ice comics, so when I knew that she was making something for Jeweler Richard, I was like, yes, please give to me. But yeah, definitely, if you're wanting your own copy, either buy it directly from Psycho Inc., or you can also get from Glacier Bay, and in particular, Glacier Bay has an exclusive sticker when you purchase from them, so yeah, maybe that's the better option. It's very good, and I recommend it. I read it immediately and just fell in love. So yeah, it was very, very good. Next, we have a hardcover book, actually, a debut and one and done little manga from Yen Press, and this is Wayama's Captivated by You. This is a collection of short but somewhat interconnected stories about a couple high schoolers. The first half is dedicated to a particular high school boy, and he's a little bit of an oddball, a little bit kooky, and one of his classmates who's trying to figure him out. And then the other half, we have another high school boy who's a little bit kooky, a little bit odd, more standoffish than the first, but has his own reasons for that. And again, a classmate who's trying to figure him out. A really, really lovely little set of stories, actually. I thought it captured like being a teen pretty well. There's some great little moments between these characters. I thought it was very genuine in how all of these characters interacted. And yeah, I liked it a lot, actually. I've heard pretty good things about this particular mangaka, and I really hope that we see more of their work in English, because this was a good time. I liked it a lot. Very solid collection of like teen high school stories. Really lovely art style as well. It really felt grounded in a way that sometimes high school manga isn't. So yeah, definitely give Captivated by You a look if you haven't yet. The rest of my large trim manga are ongoing titles. The first one, well, no, this one is the second of 3, and I am waiting for the third and final volume. I got the second volume of Joan, book 2 by Yoshikazu Yasuhiko. This is a manga retelling of the story of Joan of Arc, famous historical figure. I've heard very good things about this. This is the same creator as Gundam The Origin, which is a hugely popular series, or a hugely popular release from Vertical. Hardcover's very lovely, full color, just like these. This was put out by Comics One many, many, many years ago. It is very hard to find. I was quite lucky in snagging my copies for the price that I did. But I have yet to actually jump into them, just because I'm waiting to get all 3 and then read them all at once. Joan of Arc, or Jeanne d'Arc, is a very well-known, beloved historical figure. That's not only a religious martyr, but a icon of France and the French and English ongoing skirmish. If you don't know anything about her, she was a 16-year-old girl who but had claimed to have been spoken to by God, and helped lead the French army against the Brits, in order to, retain their freedoms and rights. And ultimately she was captured by the English, tried as a witch, and burnt at the stake for said reasons. And just is an extremely well-known figure for that. Very interesting. Certainly a historical figure who's captured a lot of people's imagination and interest over the centuries since her death. And it's it'll be interesting to see how this particular mangaka kind of reimagines or retells her story. I look forward to it. For the Viz large print or large trim stuff, we have the most recent volume of Hell's Paradise, Volume 9, Hell's Paradise Jigoku Raku by Yuji Kaku. This is a completed, in Japanese, 12-volume series about a group of criminals. Our main character, Gabimaru, who is a infamous assassin ninja. But a group of criminals, death row criminals, who are sent to a particular island to retrieve like an elixir of life, accompanied by a group of executioners to ensure that said criminals don't just try to escape. And man, it sure is there's some craziness going on. I love the series. I've been following it for a long time. I was reading it digitally in its entirety first. I followed it on Manga Plus, and it's very, very good. I love Gabimaru. I love Sagiri. I love the whole main cast. Really great cast of characters. And I've kind of called it something like a battle royale, but with creepy monsters. It gives me certain vibes of a lot of different series, which is not a bad thing. I think it does all of what it does very effectively, and I I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who doesn't kind of fall in love with the cast. They are really, really strong, really lovely to follow, and yeah, we're 3/4 of the way through now, and I'm looking forward to when I can have it all on my shelves and reread to my leisure. It's definitely one to give a look if you enjoy action, horror, kind of supernatural horror, but also like found family stuff and survival stuff. It's very good. We have Yen Press titles. We have the most recent volume of Love at 14, volume 10 by Fuka Mizutani. This is, as it says on the tin, a romance series about a couple of middle school students who it's sort of like a more toned down horamir, where they aren't really themselves in class. They're really the only people they can be themselves with is each other, because they've known each other for a little while, and they're secretly dating now. In class, they're kind of the cool, more mature of the students, and they're really idolized by their peers for that. So they're seen as very reliable compared to, their immature classmates. And of course, it features a myriad of like other side couples, some which I like, some that are a bit not super keen on. But it kind of explores the complexities of figuring out your feelings and ideas of love at the age that you sort of start to transition to understanding romantic attraction for a lot of people. 14 is kind of when puberty starts to hit, and you start to think about other people in terms of like dating them versus just being friends. And I think it captures that kind of transitional period really well. Yeah, it's not a series for everyone. Wouldn't necessarily recommend it for everyone, but it's sweet, it's cute. I've been following it for a while, and yeah, I need to actually catch up on the last couple volumes so I can read this one, but it's very good. We have volume 3 of Heterogeneous Linguistico by Salt Seno, an introduction to interspecies linguistics. I love this series a whole bunch. It's a slice of life fantasy series about this guy who is doing field research in kind of this fantasy area where he's a linguistics student, but his professor was injured very late before this trip, and so he's come to take his professor's place, and is learning in the field about the various languages of these different cultures that are very, very different from humans, and how they interact with each other, how language is formed, and why certain languages act the way they do and interact the way they do. It's really great. I've likened it before to Delicious in Dungeon. It's not as like hilariously funny, but it is still very funny, and I really enjoy it as an exploration of a fantastical world, a fantasy world, in a more mundane way. It's just really cool. I've kind of discovered that that's really something I enjoy a lot. Drifting Dragons may be a similar kind of vibe as well. Really, really good, and I look forward to more. It's always a little bit of a wait between these volumes, but it definitely worth it every single time. We have Kodansha Large Trim Manga. The first one I only got yesterday. Yesterday, and super excited. I read it immediately, and oh my goodness. So this is Boys Run the Riot, Volume 2 by Keito Gaku. This is a 4-volume series about a trans teenage boy, called Ryo, who isn't out to a lot of people, isn't out to his family, isn't out at school, isn't out, necessarily at his workplace, and so he's been struggling with his gender and how he expresses himself, and he does that through his fashion. And it's that his clothing has always been a way for him to escape the, like, other people's perception of him as a girl, quote unquote. And one day, start of the new school year, he ends up meeting this guy in his class. I think he's repeating a grade, maybe. But he's kind of roped into this other guy's, being roped into being this other guy's friend. He's not really that comfortable with him initially, but ultimately they do become very good friends, and they decide to start a clothing brand together called Boys Run the Riot, where Ryo will be the designer, and his friend kind of will organize the business side of it, and they have a third friend who does the photography for them. And man, I love this series a whole bunch. It is also an Own Voices work. So Keito Gaku is a trans man, and you can see a lot of, I think, I always see, so I've said this before, and people who have watched my videos before may have also noticed that I do really enjoy stories that feature fashion, but more importantly, I enjoy stories that feature fashion and how the act of getting dressed and presenting yourself a certain way changes people's perception of you and helps you express yourself the way that you do. It's why, fashion has a lot of different styles. It's why, a lot of people dress in certain styles and fashions, which might not necessarily be generally accepted or whatever else, but it's how they want to express themselves, right? So, like, streetwear is obviously different from, like, a more classic look comparatively to, like, a punk look. They're all very different, and they all say something about that person or about the situation or event. And for queer people, especially trans people, I would say, but it's a pretty universal truth that clothes maketh the man, and clothing is a way that people express themselves, but even more so for queer folk who haven't been able to dress in the ways that they're comfortable, how freeing fashion and particular clothing can feel. And that is definitely the case for our main character Ryo here. Oh my gosh, this particular volume ends on something and my stomach just dropped, and I'm not looking forward. I'm very excited, but also not looking forward to volume 3 because I am upset. Upset in the way that where you're supposed to feel upset about what's happening. It didn't betray my expectations or anything. But I really enjoy how Ryo is slowly trying to figure out other people and meeting new people and kind of expanding their circle out. He's a good kid. All of these kids are pretty good kids, and I look forward to reading the final 2 volumes whenever they are released. The large print and one of my favorite ongoing series is Sweat and Soap by Kintetsu Yamada. This is volume 7. This is an 11 volume series in Japanese, so another completed one. And this is a romance. That is pretty much that. It's a romance featuring 2 co-workers. Our protagonist, who after having grown up being ridiculed for her sweatiness, is kind of hyper vigilant about how she sweats and how she smells, and through that is very picky about her particular brands that she uses. She has a soap and lotion brand that she loves, and she's actually working at the company that has developed these products that she loves, in the accounting department. And one day she kind of has this weird run-in, kind of a meet cute with a guy at her company who notices how she smells, and he's into it. And he's one of the designers, it turns out, so he actually helps develop the products that she really enjoys and loves. And so initially she decides to help him develop their new product that's coming out, and very quickly it turns into a romantic relationship. And it's really good. I love the series a lot. Currently our main characters are kind of like, they're still feeling stuff out. They're trying to make things work because they're adults. They're currently living together. They're meeting each other's families. They're starting to think about long term and the future. And it's just really, it's really sweet and lovely. And it makes my heart like warm and just, oh, it's so good. Yeah, definitely I think one of, if not my favorite romance series on the market right now. And I can't wait to read more, to wrap it up, to see how these two finally, you know, how things finally pan out. I know how they pan out because I've seen covers for the last volumes, but you know, it's not so much about the destination, but more so the journey to get there. And I'm just, I really like this couple, not only together, but as individuals. And it's really wonderful to be able to read and see and support them. So super good. We have the ongoing small term manga. I guess I will start with the Viz release, one from their shoujo beat line, the most recent volume of Yonah of the Dawn by Mizuho Kusanagi. Oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. This wraps up this particular arc, and holy shit. I love this series so much, like legitimately so much. I yelled in real life and was like, oh my god, when it ended. And I need the next volume, right? I need it. Yonah continues to be just phenomenal on so many different levels. I adore the series very genuinely. It's, again, one of my favorite series coming out right now. At 30 volumes, it is on the longer end, but really it has managed to stay captivating, to stay interesting, to stay as beautiful as it is for that period. And it's just, it just continues to be so good. It just continues to be so good, right? And then, you know, I love it. I love it a whole bunch. It's beautiful. It's like, in some ways bittersweet, but also like hilarious, fantastic at pretty much everything. Action, romance, politics, comedy. And all of the characters are wonderful. It's just good. It's just a good series. I love it a whole bunch, and it's super good. So yeah, Yonah of the Dawn gets my utmost recommendation. It continues to do so. It has done since day one. I think there's 36 volumes currently in English, and although I do feel it's wrapping up, it's not currently like finishing yet. It still is ongoing and is currently one of the longest series in my collection. Not quite the longest, and won't be the longest, considering that Skip Beat and such are still far ahead. But Yonah has just been a wonderful, wonderful time. One that I highly recommend to everyone, regardless of you know, whatever your normal reads. It has something that will really appeal to most, if not everyone. And yeah, it just continues to be fabulous. Next, we have the penultimate volume. the penultimate volume of Horamir, volume 15 by Hiro and Daisuke Hagiwara. This recently got an anime. Very good. Pretty solid adaptation. Not a one-for-one adaptation, but I still enjoyed. And this is a high school romantic comedy about a bunch of kids who are dumb and silly and fun, but most importantly we have Hori and Miyamura, our main couple, who are very different personality wise. They seem extremely not like they'd be friends, but after discovering each other's secrets, when they run into each other outside of school one day, they quickly become quite close, and from there a relationship develops as well, and they've got all various friends, and it's quite a lovely series. And the way that it started as a webcomic, where Hiro was doing all of the work, and then later adapted into this manga. And more so than just being a romantic comedy, which it is, and it's very good at both of those things, it's also a kind of coming-of-age growth story focused on Miyamura in particular, and how he went from being a really withdrawn, quiet, standoffish almost individual who was trying to protect himself and try to prevent being hurt, into who he ultimately becomes, through his friendships and relationships, and through his larger high school experience. And it's very sweet. It's very lovely. I do like the main couple. I think they're very fun, and it's a great series. I hope more people did try it after the recent anime. It's also very funny. I still always laugh whenever I remember the particular joke about how both Miyamura and the student council president, that neither of them are for different reasons, but they're not really athletic. They never want to participate in sports, and they really don't want to participate in swimming. And so they're trying to come up with all of these excuses as to why they can't participate in swimming classes, including that they have their period despite both being cisgender boys. One of them's gonna break his leg for that day. The other one, his house blew up probably. There's just it just escalates, and it's so funny. And the teacher's like, "What? That literally none of these excuses are believable. What do you take me for?" And it's so good. It's a laugh and a half. But yeah, Horamia is definitely a series to check out if you haven't. And I'm gonna be sad when the last volume comes out, but I'm gonna probably reread it all in preparation for that last volume. The yen press title that I got this month was another continuation. Another one that just took my heart, ripped it out, and was like, haha, you care too much. And I was like, how dare you do this to me? And that is, of course, Toiletbound Hana Cocoon, Volume 9 by Aida Iro. Oh, man. I have some big feels about this particular volume. I legitimately almost cried 3 times separately. I knew that, the existential dread was mounting. I knew there's not gonna be a good solution from this, but oh my god. So this is the story of color page. Okay, so this is the story of a ghost boy called Hana Cocoon, who is the 7th mystery of a particular high school, who is one day summoned by one of the high school girls, Nene, in order to help her with her love life. That doesn't work out, but ultimately she ends up as his assistant, and she helps him with all the various supernatural going-ons at this particular school. And there's a middle school kid who hangs out with them. He's from an exorcist family. She's got some various classmates. There's also like other various school mysteries that they hang out with sometimes too. And we're currently in a particular arc with one of said school mysteries, and it hurts. It's hurting my feelings. I feel very emotionally vulnerable, thanks to what's going on. I'm not okay. I'm very, like, I love this series a whole bunch. It's so good. I highly recommend it, especially if you like supernatural, kind of comedy, mystery, almost thriller to a certain extent as well. Super duper good, and really distinct art style, fantastic anime adaptation as well. It's all around just wonderful, and yeah, I obviously this is like very much my thing, so I would enjoy it anyway. This series has continued to exceed my expectations for since the first volume, honestly, but it just continues to be wonderful and grow on itself and improve and explore and do unexpected things in really effective ways. And I'm not I can't say that I'm 100% okay, because I know that some really heavy dramatic stuff is coming up. It's sort of like how I feel about certain parts of Noragami, Holic, all of these series. They kind of have similar vibes, and man, oh man, it sure does seem like I just live to cause pain for myself through media. But Toiletbound Hanako-kun is another one that I really love. Another one of my favorite series currently being released right now. I know I say that a lot, but you guys know who's stuck around for a long time. You know that I don't buy things that I'm not like super invested in or interested in and really love, outside of a couple exceptions, but really none at all. And man, I love this series a whole bunch. Definitely check it out if you haven't yet. It's a great time. I look forward to volume 10. I look forward to volume 0, which has recently been announced or licensed. At some point I might even get the English edition of the art book. I already own the Japanese edition, so that would be superfluous and dumb, but I might even do that, because who said I ever made any sense? So yeah, Toiletbound Hanako-kun, don't let the name turn you off. It's not a weird fetishy thing. It's just straight up part of the supernatural lore that he is pertaining to. But yeah, check it out. Have a debut, well, sort of debut continuation kind of, from Seven Seas with Kargeki Shoujo Volume 1 by Kumiko Saiki. Currently has an anime ongoing. Haven't yet watched it, so I can't tell you whether it's good or bad, but I really enjoyed the original prequel volume, which is The Curtain Rises. Look forward to jumping into this one. I have slowly been learning more about Takarazuka thanks to my good friend Ray from Whimsical Pictures, who is a adamant fan, a very dedicated fan. And it's always interesting to follow a drama, a shoujo drama, and it's really great. It's wonderful. I think Takarazuka is a really interesting cultural thing. If you're a fan of theater or idol series as well, it kind of hits similar vibes of you are working very hard for a very particular sort of fame, and there's a lot of restrictions, and it really delves into the toxicity of all of those as well. Yeah, it's good. I enjoyed it. It also kind of it's more lighthearted, but kind of examining the said elements of certain things, especially idol culture. It reminds me of Not Your Idol quite a bit, and yeah, I guess like if you made Skip Beat really, really, really dramatic, and in saying that, this isn't just like a doom and gloom fest. Absolutely not. It's very fun and upbeat, great cast of characters, but it does deal with the realities of like harassment, both sexual and otherwise, very toxic fan bases, very toxic expectations, eating disorders, sexual abuses. It's it's good. It's good. It's good. But also like the theater and performance and love and it's just, yeah. I like this, and I am absolutely going to continue following it. For the quote-unquote normal manga, because I do have some BL that I'm going to get to in a minute, we have Die Dark Volume 2 by Q Hayashida. Hayashida's most recent series, which is like a space necromancy, hyper-violent slice of life series, which if you've read Dorohedoro, which is her previous work, that explanation will 100% make sense to you. For anyone else, you're probably going, what on earth? What on earth? So Die Dark follows the story of I think he's 14, like a teenage boy. What is his name? Zaha Sanko, who is being chased around space because there's like rumors that if you are able to get his bones, then it will grant any wish in the universe. And so in order to not be murdered and have his bones taken, he's able to fight really good. Like with all of Q Hayashida's stuff, it's sort of like a nightmare. Like there's a lot of violence, a lot of like weird, grotesque, just stuff, just everything. Very violent, very gory, but also like, and it's set in this like kind of post-apocalyptic weird. This one is as a like science fiction space setting with necromancy and death is floating around and is our main character's best friend. It's rad as hell, right? Like it's super cool. And Dorohedoro was like this kind of super derelict magical fusion of where, yeah, normal people can't really catch a break because sorcerers just want to screw everything up. And yeah, again, hyper violent, grimy, gory, people ripping other people's spines out, that sort of thing. But also then there'll be like a whole chapter dedicated to a baseball game and everyone's friends, and you're like, oh man, I really love their friendship, or dang, they're really sweet together. I hope they can make it through, right? And Die Dark's like exactly the same. Half of this book is them going to like, I don't know, the space necromancy version of IKEA or Costco or something. And they're just like hanging around and gross weird stuff is happening, but also they're just trying to find like a comfortable bed to put on their new shit. They got groceries they need to get. I really enjoy it. I really love Q Hayashida's like blend of the absurd and morbid with just like really mundane day-to-day things. And if you're someone who isn't like, grossed out by very very, very gruesome like violence and action, and you like found family stuff, or just kind of sweet domestic stuff, then definitely check out her stuff. Like, definitely both Dai Dark and Dora Hedora. She's amazing. I love her works. Super happy that Seven Seas is bringing this to us in English. To BL, and we have 5 volumes actually. I got quite a bit. First is the final volume, second and final volume of Toriton, Birds of a Feather by Kotetsuko Yamamoto. The first in a long time for Yamamoto in print. I'm a big Yamamoto fan, actually. I've read a lot of her stuff, if not all of her stuff. Way back in the old days when I was reading scans. She does have some stuff digitally. Some of her current popular titles are also available on Futekiya. But back in the day, DMP/June released some of her works in print as well, which I also have. But this is a 2-volume story about this kind of... he calls himself like a private investigator, but he's basically like the local handyman who has a secret. That secret is that he can talk to birds. Well, not that, so everyone can talk to birds, but he can talk to birds in the language of birds and also understand bird language. And because of that, he hates birds because he knows all the mean things that they say. He knows how much assholes birds are. So he's really into cats. And he continues to visit his local cat cafe, which is run by like a particular family. And the oldest/only son of said family, I think he's a 3rd year in high school, kind of getting to the end of his high school career. And there it's a relationship between those two. Obviously, like note to keep in mind is that, you know, our main character, he's in his early 20s. I think he's 23. Our other character, he, as a, you know, graduating high school student, he's at most 18. In saying that, they clarify that nothing sexual goes on until he's been accepted to university. So that may or may not subdue or make people a little bit more accepting. Honestly, like, this is such a bizarre, because also, so our main character can understand birds, right? Our other main character, he can like possess birds' bodies. He can go like astral project himself into birds. And so these two like kind of hit it off, but one of them is in the body of a crow every time. And so our other, like, he doesn't really know how to feel because he has all these feelings for this crow, but then also maybe he has feelings for this boy he knows, and it's good. It's just like, as I said, I'm a big Yamamoto fan anyway. I was going to enjoy this. You know, you can be a bit iffy on the age difference there, and that's totally valid. I think there's an element of, like, literally the setup is that one guy can can quote unquote turn himself into a bird, and the other one understands and can speak to birds. And like, that's so far removed from reality that, like, everything else needs to be removed from reality. Like, there's literally there is no other series that is more like, this is as fate intended than that kind of setup. Like, what do you even say to that? There's no way that would ever happen in real life, for one. But for two, like, it's so cliche of, like, these people are literally made to be together, as is the case because this is fiction. That, like, how can you get angry about, like, oh, well, you know, so-and-so is... maybe it's me being a hypocrite, and, you know, I'm always pretty iffy when it comes to age gaps, especially when, like, one of the characters could arguably be a minor. But, you know... At some point, you gotta draw the line. Like, how much suspension of disbelief for this, like, silly... It's not even, like, super explicit. It has, obviously, like, all of Sublime stuff has the explicit content logo on it. Doesn't mean there's anything explicit in it. First volume, nothing. Like, nothing explicit whatsoever. This volume at the very end has, like, a couple sex chapters, but, like, again, oh, well, he's graduated, now he's a university student, so that's fine. Like, so, you know, I don't think too many people will be super offended by that. Maybe you are, and that's valid. But next, we have Kisses, Macrons, and Lonely Pie by Hyogo Kijima. This is released by Kuma, so this is Faku's, like, LGBT print, or imprint, I should say. And once again, despite being a Faku release, it's not an uncensored work necessarily. It is explicit. I'm not going to open it up because it is spicy. It's a short story collection with a couple different couples, and it is spicy. But it's also not, like, super graphic in the way that maybe some people expect from, like, Faku's het stuff, right? And that's, you know, partially because of, I don't know, standard for BL or whatever, but, you know, their uncensored releases don't really feel uncensored because there's nothing to uncensor. So our main couple is these two on the front, kind of like a guy who's been in love with his friend / classmate for ages. They're both now, you know, 10 years out of high school or whatever, and kind of hook up a couple times, and that's all good. And then there's another story with oh yeah, there's a guy with, like, who finds out he's the long lost son of, like, some really wealthy dude, and then his father's assistant and their relationship. And then there's another one with, like, this delinquent and this like older gentleman type from the kimono store. And there's a chapter with, like, a judo team where everybody is fucking in love with the captain. That one has group sex, just by the way. And then the last one is, like, gay guy dating a straight guy who is insecure because he doesn't think that his boyfriend cares about him in the same way. I do like the art style. I think the sexy scenes are done pretty effectively. I think that it's very effective or attractive character art. It is kind of, I mean, it's a mixed bag of short stories. Some are better than others. I did overall enjoy it. It is one of those series, like, it kind of, the main theme really feels like, I don't know, himbo appreciation. Because there's always, like, some big, dumb, handsome, muscle-bound guy, and said partner who's, like, a little bit more clued in. And they're oblivious feelings for each other. And hey, sometimes you just need that in your life, right? But I wouldn't say this is a book for everyone. Like, it's not gonna appeal to everyone. I don't think it's, like, particularly a must get unless you are a fan of this kind of dynamic, or you like the particular body type, or you just want to not encourage, support more Faku Kuma releases. Those are all good reasons. But it was good. It was solid. I'm hoping to see some more interesting stuff from Kuma down the line. Because I do like Canis, and their other short story collection was pretty interesting. But I think there's a lot out there that they haven't quite tapped into quite yet. And I hope they do. Alright, we're gonna get to the Tokyo Pop stuff because of course we are. Oh my god, okay. So, firstly, the first one that I bought, I kind of like flip-flopped on this. I was gonna buy it where I normally buy books, and then I was like, nah, maybe I shouldn't get it. And then, so I canceled my order, but then when I went to my local comic store, they had a copy, and I flipped through. I was like, oh, okay, no, I need to get this because this is actually, and that is Fangs by Billy Bali Bali. This is an ongoing series. I think there's 2 volumes in English. No, not 1 volume in English, maybe 2 volumes in Japanese. Well, there's more chapters than the single volume in Japanese. I don't think a second volume has been released yet. But anyway, this is the story about a recently turned vampire who, I think he was like attacked by some vampire guy, and is now a vampire himself. But he has been kind of brought into the protective custody of this other guy who, he's sort of like a vampire social worker, sort of. He keeps, or parole officer maybe. He kind of keeps tabs and helps vampires exist in modern society without causing like the human population problems. And they start off kind of like in this weird situation, but very quickly turns into one of mutual attraction. And as our main character is learning more about vampire society and how vampires, interact, the feelings on both sides are growing and changing and shifting. And this one, if you want chemistry in your BL, oh boy, like this is just dang good, oh my goodness. I need to be careful because this one has a lot of sexy scenes in it, right? Look at that. Oh, nice. It's very beautiful. Has a lot of really attractive characters. Vampires just inherently are pretty sexy. Just like the idea of them, a lot of the lore surrounding them. I really like a lot of the different vampire characters that you meet, a lot of the different couples. There's one character, his wife is human and they got like a great relationship. I love it. Oh my gosh, so much stuff I cannot show on YouTube. But yeah, his wife is a babe. There's another character who's recently lost his partner and so is kind of like very adrift. First of all, if you're a fan of vampires in any capacity, buy this manga. Just thank me later, buy this manga. If you're a fan of BL and particularly like supernatural BL, buy this manga. If you're a fan of romance or BL in particular where there's like really strong sexual chemistry tension, buy this manga. It ticks like every single box. It's so good. And once again, I am frustrated because dang it, Tokyo Pop's up licensing good shit. I hate having to keep giving you my money, but I have to. How could I say no? How could I say no to what you are giving me with Fangs? Yeah, it's really good. Definitely leaves you satisfied but interested and curious. There's certainly like a hook for future exploration and different messages and different questions to be answered. I'm really looking forward to it. It's pretty outstanding. we have the, I guess, romantic drama, maybe. That is Glass Syndrome by Eiko Ariki. This is the story of two classmates. One who's in like a pretty desperate situation. His dad's kind of run off, escaping debts. He's on his own, and kind of struggling to survive. Hasn't gone to school. Really doesn't know what to do with his life. He's very desperate and in quite a dangerous predicament. And then our main character, who he's very well liked at school. He's very personable. He's very reliable. All of the kids, like all of the other students, like him. All the teachers like him. But he's constantly playing the character to be liked, and thus finds it very suffocating. One day he gets asked by the teacher to go to this other guy's house to give him like homework, because he's missed several days of school, and in doing so he kind of becomes more aware of his classmate and the situation, and it's drama ensues, because not only does he kind of become aware of this other kid from his class, he also gets called out about his like fake attitude and personality around other people by this other kid, and that obviously is quite confronting, and he doesn't like to think about that. But then also he discovers that said classmate is on like chat sites or camgirl sites maybe, as one of the performers, and so he doesn't know like how to feel about that, and how that is affecting their relationship, and how he perceives this other person. It's good. It's one of the like more dramatic BL from Tokyo Pop's Love Love line. I would also say that it's not inherently like a romantic thing between these characters. There's perhaps attraction and like some confused feelings about the situation, but it's not inherently a romantic thing, and I think that's somewhat appreciated. Of course, like, it is BL, so there's always a possibility there, but this is a single volume, and it is more so about how these characters impact each other rather than them like, and then they kissed and they lived happily ever after at the end, right? It is good though. It's interesting. It's a pretty nuanced look about like this period of puberty and searching for acceptance and growing up faster than you should as an adolescent. So it was a really good time in certain ways, and I liked it a lot. Yeah, if it sounds like your thing, give it a look. Last but not least, we have another Tokyo Pop title, another one and done. This one is a little bit more on the like sweet and spicy scale. And that is Sheri My Destiny by Okoge Mochino. This is the story of a patissiere, or like a Western dessert maker, a Western pastry chef, and one day he hears about a Japanese sweet store kind of in the similar area, and he gets very jealous, and he goes to scope the place out, and he immediately sees the owner of said store and calls him his rival and all sorts of things, and despite being like quite put out that all of his limelight is being stolen by this other guy and his sweets, and he hasn't ever really had an appreciation for Japanese sweets. He kind of starts this, even though at first he sees him as an adversary and a rival, he kind of also falls head over heels for him, and so it's a fun little back and forth between these two, and how their relationship grows and changes, and ultimately, is comes to fruition, right? Again, like a lot of one and done stories, it has a couple sexy scenes at the end. It's just mostly the get together and the affirmation of feelings, and then they lived happily ever after, which again can be great, and sometimes that's all you need. It's quite sweet, it's quite funny. I really like sort of how expressive the characters can be. It's a good time. I think it's quite cute. Quite just generally lovely and funny as well. So give it a shot if you haven't. And I think it's worth your time if you're a BL fan and if it sounds like something you're interested in. We have some comics that are not Japanese comics. They're just other comics that I had and got. So first up is The Magic Fish by Trung Lee Nguyen. I have not read this. I'm really looking forward to it. I've heard nothing but good things. This is a reimagining of like The Little Mermaid, sort of, but in parallel with, it's very much, in parallel to a lot of the folklore and fairy tales of particular areas of Asia, and then counterpoint to that with kind of the real life day-to-days of the main character. I'm really looking forward to it. As I said, I've heard nothing but good things. I've been meaning to get it for a little while. I had a couple other things that I wanted to get, so I bought them all together, and I finally received them, and it is definitely on the to read pile, like very, very high at the top. So yeah, The Magic Fish by Trung Lee Nguyen. Apologies that I don't have any like proper thoughts to share on this one, but give it a look, especially if it sounds like your thing. That I also bought at the same time, actually, or that I bought together with The Magic Fish, was The Sprite and the Gardener by Ri Abrego and Joe Witt. This is a beautiful little short comic about a little sprite that lives in a particular gardener's garden and is kind of like inspired by them. And I found out about this particular comic because I follow the artist on Twitter, and I actually saw them posting, where is it? The one-page comic that started it all, which is this. It's included in the back. And I was just so charmed that I was like, I need to buy that and read that and find out more. And so I have, and it's great. Beautiful, beautiful little book. Well, not little, it's substantially larger than all of the other books that I got this month. But definitely worth a look if you're sounds interesting to you. And give the artist a look-see on social media and stuff too, because they are very talented, and I'm really happy that they were able to explore this initial idea a little bit further in this full-length comic. So we have the first, I think, limited edition volume release of a particular web comic that I read ages ago. I think it's still ongoing, but I kind of fell off of all of my webcomic reading quite a while ago. But I had always enjoyed this one. I look forward to getting back into it. But this is Saint for Rent, Volume 1. So this is like a slipcover edition with really lovely spot gloss and stuff. And then we have the book itself. This is by Ruzu, and I will read the back for you. So, Saint runs an inn for time travelers. This leaves him little time to write his trashy romance novels. Always a pit stop in the crisscrossing lives of his out-of-date friends and family, Saint wonders where his place is in a world that is quickly passing him by. Unfortunately, he also seems to attract more supernatural guests, too. Beautiful. Oh, it's so pretty. Look at that book. And look at that cover. And the art itself is gorgeous. It's a really wonderful webcomic. I always enjoyed it when I was staying up to date with it, and really beautiful edition. I think this was kickstarted once upon a time ago, right? But it doesn't collect the full story, so I will be keeping my eyes peeled for when the rest of it finally sees its way to print at some point. Yeah, give it a look if you're interested. It's definitely worth the read. I have an art book that was actually kickstarted. I backed the Kickstarter. And more specifically, I don't know how much of this art book I can show off. Because it's a collection of artwork from an artist called Manluo over the course of 5-ish years. And beautiful. Look at that cover. Lovely. I really like their art style. But this is more so a collection of artwork about intimacy. A lot of girls kissing each other. A lot of girls and boys kissing each other. A lot of boys kissing each other, or kissing boys and girls and other boys kiss. There's a lot of kissing. But I really love. It's just. I can show maybe some of the not as sexual stuff. Because there is quite a bit of that. If you like girls in pretty underwear, then oh boy, this is absolutely your kind of book, I think. And there's several different spots. Obviously it has a lot of their more recent work, which does feature lovely ladies quite a bit in very cool fashions as well, just by the way. There's also a whole series of like more intimate or erotic artwork, which honestly, like, some of them are less erotic than like this one is not. I wouldn't say, like, yeah, it there's some kink there, but it's not nearly. There's some of the earlier stuff is markedly more so. If you like shibari as well, then oh boy, you're going to enjoy this one. Because they like drawing their boys tied up, especially. And then at the end, there's more like a specific art connected to a particular comic called Joy of Life, which is really lovely, and I think really shows off how atmospheric some of their larger pieces are. Yeah, it's a really interesting mix of all sorts of things, life drawings as well, and of course tutorials and specifics at the end as well, as tends to be the case for a lot of art books. I don't know where you can buy this currently. You probably can buy it. It's, it had a pretty wide print run thing, or, well, it's fulfilled as Kickstarter. I'm sure that they still have other copies if this is something that you're wanting to pick up. Yeah, it's very nice. Very, very talented artist. Again, not one that's necessarily going to be for everyone, but I do think that it turned out pretty much as I expected, and, very beautiful purchase, really. Not a super, tall book either. I don't know if there was an impression that it was super large. But yeah. The Art of Luoman, which is more specifically a collection of this artist's works over the past several years. We have some light novels. The first one is, I don't think it's self-contained. I do think there will be more. In fact, I'm pretty sure there's already more. But this is volume 1 of Romance of the Imperial Capital Kotogami, A Tale of Living Alongside Spirits by Yamori Michikusa. This is a Cross Infinite Worlds release, and is my first print release from Cross Infinite Worlds, and somewhat unsurprising. I maybe half expected this. This is a print-on-demand title from Amazon. I kind of spotlighted it when I was reading it on Twitter and such. You can tell it's a print-on-demand book just because of, well, how it feels, how it looks, but also glaring issues like this. Look how they hyphenated panhandlers. One, you do not hyphenate in a chapter title. Two, you don't hyphenate panhandlers like that. You hyphenate it panhand hyphen lers, right? So it's, well, you just don't hyphenate panhandlers. You would just make panhandlers on the second line. But that's a very, not nitpicky. That's kind of a basic editorial thing that a actual, like, edited, fully published novel would have. This also is, I guess technically, it's a light novel, but there's no illustrations because it really is just a repackaged web novel. Which is not a bad thing. I did enjoy this. It's pretty standard for what to expect with this sort of a genre. About a girl who, or a young woman I should say, who is very much not a fan of, like, fictional stories or anything, albeit she's very well read, she's very independent, but one day her where she lives burns down, and she's kind of scrambling for something to do, because it was burnt down and destroyed by this kind of what is known as a kotogami. They're kind of yokai, I guess, in the imperial capital, and she runs into some individuals who are related to kind of the I don't know, the police force that's kind of in charge of preventing these sorts of disasters, and so she ends up getting caught up in all of that, and you learn more about this mysterious man who saved her. And, you know, it's a romance story with a supernatural twist. I do think it's quite a well-written mystery. It's not, like, super unexpected as to the specifics of it. The twists aren't really, like, necessarily shocking, but I do think it was well written. I do think that all of the characters were really interesting. Obviously, I'm a big yokai nerd, so that pleased me. And I do look forward to reading more, because I'd be interested to see how this story progresses from this point. I think that the fantastical or supernatural elements are integrated really well into this kind of near modern setting. It's sort of like late Meiji, sort of early Taisho, this you know, period of Japan transitioning from traditional Japanese society to, like, a more westernized, globalized culture, and so a lot of that is brought into the narrative as well. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'm not going to say it's the best thing ever written. It's certainly not my favorite light novel, but I do think it's very good. If it sounds like your thing, it's worth a look. I do encourage more people to try Cross Infinite Worlds' releases, especially if you're wanting more shoujo light novels or light novels with female protagonists. This is probably my favorite from them. There's a couple others that I do enjoy from them. I don't know how many have made the transition to this print-on-demand, system. But I do think, despite my gripes with it, I do think that print-on-demand was the best option for this book in their titles, just because I highly doubt that there's much interest in a wide, or audience large enough to facilitate a proper quote-unquote print release, comparatively to, like, a lot of what else is on the light novel market. So, yeah. Romance of the Imperial Capital, Kotogami. A Tale of Living Alongside Spirits. If that just absolutely doesn't sound like it's a title that would appeal to me specifically, then you're obviously haven't been on this channel long enough. But it was very good, and I did enjoy it. Finally, we have some light novels that I haven't read, and I bought kind of sight unseen because I have trust. Because I have trust, I'm a trusting person, and I was also, like, interested. I'd heard of this one. So a little while ago, I asked on Twitter, like, is there any particular light novels coming out recently that I should check out? I already follow, like, X, Y, and Z. If people who, like, if mutuals who I know read light novels have anything that's, like, outstanding that I should read, then let me know, right? And I did get a couple responses. Obviously, a lot of the people who follow me or are mutuals with me are more focused on manga and anime, and that's totally cool. But I did get a couple people recommend this one specifically for me, and most notably, Kim, aka Frogkun, on Twitter, and I really like Kim. I think they're wonderful. They're probably the largest, like, light novel apologist in the anime like industry space, and they do great work. They're very on top of, like, what's current and what is like well liked, and they have a soft spot for all of the kind of trashy, not wonderful, or by the numbers tropey stuff that people kind of are typically sick of. I think they have a really great insight as to, like, the industry as a whole, and also, forgiving enough to give a lot of things a try that other people might just, pass over because of expectations are pretty low and they've been burned before. But they recommended me 2 series, and I was like, okay, I will check those ones out because I trust their opinions, and I trust their opinions because they said for you I would recommend, like, these titles. So it wasn't just like the blanket, and not that, like, we're like super close friends or anything, but I have known Frogkun or Kim for a while. We have talked before. I think they are pretty aware of, like, what I'm into, and have read my previous reviews for light novels and things before. So I was pretty confident. In trusting trusting their recommendations. So, and then I was like, okay, I'll pick those up. And then coincidentally today, when I was at the store, my local comics book store, because I visit once a week because I'm just bad like that, they had all of the 3 volumes that are currently available in English, and so I was like, I will just buy these. I haven't read any of them, but I will just buy them because I want to read them, and people have told me that these are these are books that I will like. And so this is An Unnamed Memory, The Witch of the Azure Moon, and the Cursed Prince by Kuji Furumiya, with illustrations by Chibi. So this is the first volume. We got volume 1. So I think from the blurb, he wins a thing, or he manages to somehow, like, get a wish from this witch who's, like, locked up in a tower, and he asks her to break the spell, or this curse that has been placed upon him, that any woman that he marries or falls in love with or something will die, right? So he's cursed to die alone, unloved. And so the solution to that is, like, well, I've got super awesome... I think did he say it? I don't know. I haven't read it yet. But one of them floats the idea... I would presume maybe he floats the idea that she has, like, such incredible magic powers that they probably bypass this curse. And so rather than necessarily breaking this curse, maybe she can marry him, so she's not going to die because she's just that much more powerful. And then he's not going to die a sad, lonely guy. And I think she's, like, kind of agrees to it, but is also, there's sort of the idea of, like, well, if I can also break the curse, then maybe I don't have to worry about this. So So, as I said, I haven't read it. I don't know. But again, I trust. I have trust. And then, so we have volume 2, which is Unnamed Memory, The Queen Without a Throne. Yet again, by Kuji Furumiya. And the third volume, which is the most recent volume, I think this only came out like this week. I've seen the art for it floating around, like the cover art for it floating around. Came out this month, and this is Unnamed Memory, Vows for Eternity. So, hey, I guess someone's attitude changed somewhere down the line. I look forward to it. It actually looks really nice. Sounds really interesting. And not that I need any more series to be following, quite frankly, but I did want to kind of scope out what was available in light novels, because it has, like, I do have light novels and modern light novels that I follow. Like, Ascendance of a Bookworm is a good one. I am waiting for print release of Apothecary Diaries. I'm currently reading that digitally, thanks to J Novel Club. There's a lot. Bakano, Durara, spin-offs and such, but I kind of stick to what I know, and I'm always wanting to try and branch out a little bit more, especially in genres that there might be some stuff like hiding amidst all of everything else. So yeah, Unnamed Memory. Fingers crossed it's good. No, I expect it's probably not terrible, if nothing else. I do have like mildly high expectations for this one, and hopefully my trust is not misplaced, but I'm pretty sure it's not. That was all of the manga and comics and light novels and everything else that I got for this month of July. There's a lot here. It's not my largest haul or anything, but I think there's a decent amount of books. Certainly enough to keep me reading for the foreseeable future. Although in saying that, I have read most of them, if not all of them. Let me know your thoughts, your feelings, your opinions on any of the titles that I talked about. Have you read the light novels that I spoke of? Have you read some of the comics that I spoke of? What's your opinion on some of these manga that are ongoing and or starting and or breaking my heart? Do you agree? Disagree? I always love to hear your comments when you leave them, and I do try to reply to them as often as possible. But yeah, thank you everyone who made it to this point. If you enjoyed this video, if you're wanting to hear more of my thoughts, follow more of my hauls, look out for recommendations or reviews, then subscribing is a good way to do that. You can also follow me on Twitter, where I am on all the time. I also co-host a podcast, which actually the most recent episode was released yesterday, my time, which is about manga and the manga industry, namely manga, more specifically, that I co-host with my good friend Ray from Whimsical Pictures. And the most recent episode is wonderful. It's about small press publishers, spotlighting Glacier Bay, who I talked a lot about in this particular whole video, as well as Starfruit Books, who are a really interesting and cool little up-and-coming publisher as well. And we had special guests from both of those publishers, so give that a listen if you're interested. That's the Read Right to Left podcast. But yeah, I think that's everything. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Keep yourself happy, healthy, stay safe, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye till then.